I think it's time that we move on to the new rules. So back in the archaic days of the lockout, I know a long time ago, it's only a year, there were so many things that were thrown around. Obviously, a lot of it was negotiating terms between the owners and the Players Association. But one of the things that the players and somewhat the owners were pushing for were some changes to the pace of play and trying to make the game better and more viewable in order to grow the fan base. With that, over the past couple seasons, even prior to the CBA expiring, they've been testing things in the minor leagues, such as a pitch clock. So, what this would do is it decreases the amount of time that a pitcher has to throw a pitch. With 15 seconds, if no one's on base, they have to start their motion. So, at the 15th second, if you're in your motion, you're fine. And it goes to 20 seconds with a runner on base. It also limits the amount of time that you can pick off. What do you guys initially think about this?
Um, there's two ways you can look at it. I mean, there's the two sides of the argument. I think that a pitch clock is great for the sport of baseball in general. I mean, diehard fans of the sport could watch it all day, like me, but it's kind of crucial to grow beyond just those diehard fans. And I think a lot of the younger generation, which has a shorter attention span, like myself as well, um, need kind of more faster paced action in major leagues. But with that said, I know you have that statistic with stolen base percentage increasing. So that pickoff limit rule seems a little bit sketchy to me.
I was gonna point that out that if you like once you hit your limit, I mean what they can basically take the base for free. I feel like that's a kind of a big question mark because you won't be able to pick off, or if they start running, then you can throw.
So the way it works is you have two pickoffs, and that's fine. You can attempt a third pickoff, but if you don't get him out, it's counted as a balk, and they automatically get the
Okay.
next base.
Okay.
Um, and obviously, like there is going to be some arguments about like the competency of pickoff moves because recently they've kind of just been like step off, load your arm, lob the ball over. So we might see the skill of picking off come back where people are actually trying to get batters out or to get runners out. But I think it's also going to bring back a stolen base. Like I enjoy stolen bases. It brings an element to a game that we haven't seen really in like 10 years. And it also gives the A's an ounce of credit for getting Esteury, but that's besides the point. Um, but really, what it does, the goal of it is to increase the speed of the game. And it overall in the minor leagues over the past 3 seasons, it has decreased the amount of time a game has taken by 26 minutes. That's putting the average MLB game under 3 hours, which I think is ridiculously marketable compared to a 3.5 hour baseball game that doesn't have much implications.
Yeah, this is a business. I mean, you have to satisfy a lot of people to grow as a business. So I mean, I was looking at a survey. It was done in May 2022 to see levels of interest in different age groups. Of those different age groups, there was a massive increase in interest in ages 45 and above. So that younger age group is lacking. That youngest age group, 18 to 34, that age range, was pulling in the least amount of fans. So I think the MLB as a whole has to target that younger age group, and I think it comes with those web gems, those stolen bases, the general offensive production and speed of the game, kind of drawing that younger crowd. So, Brad, what do you guys say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that you look at our generation because we're in the target market now. We are in that 18 to 34, and we have, I think some of it's credit to social media. Like we like things to be more high paced, less slow and meticulous. And when there's going to be constant action in MLB, it almost makes it more, it makes it seem faster paced than something like football. Football, there's at least 25 seconds. Sometimes it goes more than 40 seconds between every play. With baseball, if you're getting to 15 seconds and under between every single pitch, you're paying attention to it. It's easy to focus in on a 6 pitch at bat that only takes a minute and 30 seconds. Like I think it takes a lot less attention that you have to put into an at bat.
That's true. So that's what you got.
Well, for me, like I think so. I think it's a really good thing for the state of baseball that we're in right now. I definitely think overall, I think it's just something we're gonna have to get used to, right? Like the pass interference calls or the roughing the passer calls kind of have like changed over the course of the NFL, right? In the past decade or so, and we've all just kind of gotten used to it. We've gotten used to the soft kind of if you touch the quarterback after they throw the ball, then it's a pat or a roughing the passer, right? It's something we're gonna have to get used to, but I think overall it's really gonna help the MLB and just kind of it'll bring more people to this sport in general. And because like my girlfriend's not really into like baseball at all, but and that's because she has a short attention span. But if it was faster paced like this, she would get into it more.
I
Yeah,
think,
I'm
yeah,
I was just saying, just thinking, you look at the other major sports, you have basketball is one of the leading sports in America, and I think that's just because if you look at it, there's something always happening. And I think that's what the MLB, right? I know, Tom, you keep on saying baseball has to do something to get them, more into it, especially, with the kids coming up. And I think that the fact that when you go in and now something's going to be happening every 15 seconds is huge. Instead of waiting around or just tossing it, because that can lose a lot of people right there. If you're just tossing it to first base 3 times because the runner on first is, fast and you want to, okay, but I get, that's what you're doing to win, but for the people watching, it just gets boring. So I think this is a major step in the right direction. And I think if they keep on doing this, then, you eventually hit this, I guess you say stardom and
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And let me give the counter argument, and let me see what you guys think. These batters and pitchers, they have this, sweet time in between pitches. Um, and I read that it's not all for nothing. It's not just to stall the game. It's this quote mental battle between the batter and the pitcher. And that shortened time might also like kind of ruin that in a sense. Other arguments are like that shortened time might also add fatigue to pitchers. Some people even suggest that the pitch clock would like result in like generally worse performances. So do you think there is a trade-off, or do you think it's just all in their heads?
I disagree with the less fatigue statement for pitchers or the increased fatigue, excuse me. Um, I think that if pitchers are done with their outings 20 minutes before they normally would be, and you routinely get home 20 to 40 minutes earlier than you would in a normal season, it's more sleep and more time for the body to recover. And honestly, that may seem inconsequential in April through June, but every extra step that you could have taken to heal yourself and let your body recover in the initial months of the season is only going to help you when you go through the dog days of August and September.
I disagree with the sleep aspect, but the in between innings, when the pitcher is on the side of the hitting team in that other half of the inning, that being sped up would definitely help the most. I think, having a shorter second half of the inning to go back out sooner would almost be better because that rest time can cause tightness. So I think that's good.
Think overall, I mean, I think so. There's two, like you're trading off, right? You're gonna get to go home early and do your arm rest that you and arm care that you need after your outing, but you also need to take into account that in between each pitch, they're not gonna have as much time to let their arm kind of reload and for that next pitch. And just I think it's gonna add a different aspect of strategy, right? So you have to kind of go out there with a plan in mind overall before the at bat instead of like, oh, it's a 2-1 count. I'm going to go with this pitch. You kind of have to be like, in a 2-1 count going into this at bat, you're most likely going to go with this pitch. That's kind of it's going to change how the matchups come at each other opposed to how it was before.
And you bring this up that pitchers they like the way they do things. They have a routine. And I think to begin the season, but correct me maybe if I'm wrong or something. I think at the beginning of the season, the pitchers are going to struggle a little bit with getting the 15 seconds. It's going to be spring training is going to help, I think, a lot. But that 15 seconds that you have to, hey, you got to get the ball, you got to get focusing quick and, start going, instead of that, what, 30, 40 seconds that they might have had.
I don't think the infractions are going to be too bad because they are going to have that spring training, as you said, to make that adjustment. But these are also professional athletes. Like they can adjust when they need to. And it's not going to play an impact for the pitcher. Say a pitcher works 20 seconds like per pitch. That's an easy adjustment besides like a Kenley Jansen who works like 32 seconds between pitches. But like obviously I think someone like him's gonna struggle a lot more. But if you look at someone that just works quickly, like get on the mound, fire, get on the mound, fire, get on the mound, fire, like an Alek Manoah type, then it's gonna be a lot easier. It's gonna be a lot easier for someone like Alek Manoah to adjust than someone like Kenley Jansen, especially someone who's seasoned into it. Like I would almost argue that it'd be better to have like a grandfathered in system for someone like Kenley Jansen or these like 10-year veterans who have been pitching how they have and succeeding or not succeeding for some people in that sense, where they're able to finish their careers going that way if you have more than 10 years or something like that in the league. But obviously that opens the door for disputes.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, and it's the timer stops as soon as you make a move, correct? Like because what about somebody like Nestor Cortez, who sometimes does those long things? How are they gonna fix that? Or is that just gonna be his, you
So,
know?
I mean, it's not going to make a difference because think about it. He's still engaged with the batter. It's still
Yeah,
action going on.
yeah.
Because as long as he's moved and there isn't a disengagement or something, then he's fine.
Then he's fine. Okay.
Because
Yeah, no,
it's
no,
still action that's going on. Because you can be entertained by a Nestor Cortez motion.
yeah.
Because like you have to think about it. The point of the pitch clock is to increase viewership and make baseball more engaging. And obviously that's why I think I'm heavily in favor of it. Games go faster. It's I'm a West Coast fan and I live on the East Coast. It's difficult to watch Dodger games some nights because they start at 11. Honestly, I can watch 4 or 5 innings of a game now as opposed to 2 or 3, and sometimes not even that much. And honestly, I think it's going to make stolen bases more of a thing, and that's very interesting. And that has potential to grow the game because what's exciting? A pitcher picking off twice, like non-effort, then taking 15 seconds, then getting on the rubber, then taking 20 more seconds and delivering a pitch, or 15, 20 seconds in between each pitch with the threat of a base stealer going because you've seen it happen over and over again more frequently.
Yeah, I mean, the art of stealing a base has been kind of lost in this time now. So I think if we can bring that back, I know analytics say that stealing bases is not that efficient or worth it anymore, but maybe with this new change, it would be worth it, and especially with the one top 5% of guys, I think we're going to see an increase.
Yeah. And I think, Stevs, you brought up the point where there's less of the mental battle, like because there's less time. So you don't have the time to think, oh, 2-1, I'm looking this, or I'm going to throw this. But I also think it does a good job of taking paper out of baseball. I think it puts it a lot better in the hands of the catcher, the pitcher, and the batter. I think it's you get into that 2-1 situation and you have the second to think, look at your card. This is before the pitch clock. That, oh, he throws his slider 73% of the time in a 2-1 count. You go up there 2-1 and you're like, I think this guy throws the slider a lot. I'm going to sit on a fastball. If I get a slider, I'm going to take it. I think it brings a lot of that back into it more than just willy-nilly swinging.
Yeah,
But it also
exactly.
it brings a lot of thought back into the pitcher's head, not just, oh, this is what the analytics say is best in this count. I actually have to use my best stuff here.
Yeah, I also think it's what, 8, I think we said 8 seconds before the batter has to step into the box, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that also makes the third base coach, could you almost say like, I'm not gonna say like irrelevant, but he either has to be quicker or you just have to leave it up to the batter at that point.
No, it just has to be
Like,
quicker.
huh.
And then the one thing I don't like about the pitch clock is like game 5 of the American League Division Series. It's the 8th inning. There's runners on second and third. There's none of that suspense of here's the pitcher getting his sign and he comes set 1, 2. There's none of like that hype behind it. Do you guys get that sense of like it's just going to be much more rapid fire and there's not going to be as much of a built-in suspense?
I like that point, and I think that might be a change. I mean, this is obviously experimental. This is the MLB is being experimental here. We're testing new things out, and if we find that there is something better, then we're going to move to it. And I think in those high intense moments, you know, because no one's gonna want to watch a second inning guy pitch with like 30 seconds in between each pitch. But like you said, later in the games, especially in these really high tension games, that's important. That's really good to build suspense, and that's good for viewership as well. And that's the number one thing they're worried about right now, 100%. So I think maybe considering down the line a postseason pitch timer that's different, but would that kind of throw off the rhythm of the game compared to the games before? You know what I'm saying? Because you're working at a different pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd just be challenging because if you move from 15 seconds in the regular season to 20 seconds in the postseason, it's kind of gonna mess with some people.
I think the trade-off is worth it.
So you say that, right? But then you think back to like, so if you're in those high intense moments and you know the pitch is coming at like 5, 4, 3, 2, right? It's kind of like the time expiring at like an NBA game. Like you know the time is, and you take that buzzer beater shot. It's kind of gonna create like, maybe if you do get that pitch off, like it's coming down and you throw the pitch, right, and as time expires you throw the pitch or whatever, like it's gonna create that type of buzzer beater type scenario from a pitcher's or a hitter's perspective.